Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. Today I'll be reading a short one-shot entitled Spare Scares. This is a shindeku fic. It's very short, very sweet with lots of fluff. Hope you all enjoy. What's the appeal of Halloween really? It's not even celebrated that much in Japan, so why the hell has UA decided to throw a Halloween dance? It shouldn't bother Hitoshi really, it's not like he's obligated to go. Except, in a way, he is. Sorry. Won't be finished till Saturday. I'll bring it to the dance and give it to you there. The pink-haired girl, Hatsume, Hitoshi had made himself remember, seeing as they'd been tasked together to come up with the concept of his artificial vocal cords, says from the cluttered lab table. But I'm not going, Hitoshi responds. Can't I pick it up the day after? He needs a support item in order to get used to it. The sooner the better since his assessment is coming up. No can do. I won't be in the workshop on Sunday. Hatsume doesn't spare him a glance. Too immersed in tinkering just like when they'd been first introduced. Just come and pick it up. You don't even have to stay, otherwise the latest you're going to get it will probably be next Friday. Hitoshi would have argued more, but the resulting tinkering from the other had caused a mini explosion with plumes of smoke, setting off the fire sprinklers, so Hitoshi had evacuated the lab with everyone else while sporting a grimace. The week comes and goes, school being even more of a drag since everyone is talking about this stupid dance. Kind of costume to wear, who's asking who out, it's all dumb. Hitoshi doesn't have time for dumb. He's got to train hard in order to get into the hero course, and wasting time on things like silly Halloween parties isn't going to do him any good. When Saturday rolls around, Hitoshi's already debating on whether or not waiting a whole nother week is worth not having to go to this dance. There will probably be teachers chaperoning and holding a ruler in between couples dancing, plus there's also the fact that he'll have to actually look for Hatsume through the crowds of gross, sweaty teens trying awkwardly to dance together. And if he can't find her, what will he do? Ask around if anyone's seen her and give people the wrong idea? No thanks. It takes Aizawa asking if he has a support mask yet to get Hitoshi to change his mind. He doesn't want to face his mentor's wrath from finding out Hitoshi's still waiting longer to get something essential to his training in hero development. Hitoshi figures that he doesn't technically need a costume to get in, so when the night falls, he's still in his exercise clothes with his capture weapon wrapped around his shoulders from sparring earlier. He doesn't think he needs to change at all. If anything, he can always say that he's just supposed to be a zombie. The sunken eyes, pale skin, and dead expression should be convincing enough. Besides, he's not here to stay. Just pick up his mask and leave, and hopefully be able to practice a little with it when he gets back to his dorm. The air is chilly as night falls, and Hitoshi walks across the school grounds from the dormitories to the gym. He's lucky that it's close by. Otherwise, he surely wouldn't have wasted his time and just waited the extra week. There's other people walking near him. As the gymnasium comes into view, he can already hear the laughter of those running past him to get into the dance faster. There's about 6 or 7 times that Hitoshi changes his mind again and again as the music grows louder and louder as he approaches. He's juggling pros and cons in his brain like a circus performer as he reaches the entrance that's barely concealing the noise inside. It'll be fast, in and out. All he has to do is find Hatsume, get his support item, and then leave before his head has a chance to form the start of an ache. He pushes the double doors open and immediately regrets his decision on not just waiting till next week. The gym is crowded and noisy. From the heat of all the bodies together, it makes the temperature inside and outside contrast greatly. Not to mention the high capacity is causing uneasiness at being around so many people at once. Hitoshi squints upward. The lights aren't that harsh, at least. He had expected lasers and strobe lights that would have definitely made his brain throb behind his eyeballs, but at least there's just the soft glow of lanterns shaped like pumpkins and fairy lights atop the high ceiling. Music isn't half bad either now that he thinks about it, not harsh sounding like seconds ago. Maybe the reverberating sounds he'd heard before entering was the loud clatter of students trying to yell over the music. It's not too packed, still more than he'd like, but at least the space is huge, nothing less for the top hero school, he supposes. Okay, he'll admit it's not as bad as he'd convinced himself it'd be, and a good thing about no one wanting to talk to him is, well, no one will talk to him, which will make this mission easier and ensure that he won't get sidetracked. His eyes scan the dance floor for Hatsume. It shouldn't be that hard to find her. Not many students have bright pink hair after all, but now that he thinks about it, Hitoshi really didn't take into consideration that everyone here is wearing costumes. Fuck. He's a fool. Hitoshi didn't know if she's even here yet or is planning to be fashionably late. He would have asked her for her number to make it easier, but wouldn't that be weird? Ugh, why doesn't Hitoshi ever think ahead? The least he could have done was ask her what her costume would be. That's not weird. It's a perfectly normal thing to ask, considering that she's going to a freaking Halloween party. Come on, use your head for once. Hitoshi highly doubts that he can become a hero with this shitty hindsight. Well, he's here, and really the thought of leaving empty-handed annoys him, when he'd already mustered up enough social energy to be around people. Well, the snack table isn't going to rate itself. Hitoshi does deserve a break, after all. Even though he'd much rather be eating junk food in his room instead of here to dance alone. He's been training hard, tirelessly, ruthlessly. Besides, he thinks Hatsume had mentioned once that she likes chocolate, so if there's a possibility she might be lured to the dessert table, then Hitoshi's going to hang around here. The minutes tick by as Hitoshi picks at the snacks and waits. He's sure to have cavities lined up with how many pieces of candy he's mindlessly munching on, not to mention the sugar that'll definitely not go along well with his insomnia later. Hitoshi was right about teacher chaperoning, though he was just joking about the ruler thing, but apparently UA has policies about PDA just like any school. Except Midnight Sensei seems to be doing the opposite and encouraging people to dance closer, which appears to just make everyone uncomfortable and awkwardly separate, so she seems to be doing her job just fine. But then she starts pulling singles from the sidelines in a random, twisted matchmaker manner, and Hitoshi has to bolt when she meets his eye because there's no way in hell he's going to be paired to dance with a stranger. "Young man, do you have anyone to dance with?" Midnight calls after his retreating form, with the arm of a girl, in her hold as she tries to zigzag through the others after him. "Yes, I do." Hitoshi shouts a lie to save his life and his dignity. "I don't see anyone. Come and dance with this cute young lady. She's practically begging to be swooned." The girl, in fact, does not look like she wants to be swooned, let alone dance with a weird brainwashing kid. Hitoshi dodges couples to get away from the too enthusiastic chaperone and finds sanctuary in the restroom away from everyone. That was close. Hitoshi lets out a sigh as exhaustion starts to seep into his bones when the mini-adrenaline rush wears off. Thankfully, the restroom is empty, more paper jack-o'-lanterns to light the space instead of actual fluorescent, which is nice since those have always irritated his eyes anyway. Hitoshi approaches the sink, turning the faucet to splash tepid water to his face. His eye bags are definitely more prominent than they normally are, and Hitoshi is so tired. The worst part is he can't go back out and risk Midnight pairing him up with some rando, but staying in here means that he won't be able to look for Hatsume to get a support item. Hitoshi didn't think that he'd spend his Halloween at a silly dance, let alone trapped in a bathroom while Monster Mash plays muffled from the rest of the building, separated in his purgatory of isolation. At least it's one of the smaller restrooms, only a few stalls and a couple of sinks, which means that there won't be a lot of traffic of people going in and out. Hitoshi sets both hands on either side of the sink, staring at how his pupils dilate in the low light. He's heard that if you stare at your reflection long enough, you'll hallucinate. Maybe he'll see a ghost, if his sleep-deprived mind can conjure up one in the soft glow of the restroom while Hitoshi tries to come up with some sort of escape plan. He tries. Really he does, not to mope when he comes up short on ideas. His chance of survival is much higher if he makes a dash for the exit as soon as he leaves the restroom, but that'll mean no mask tonight, and having to actively search for Hatsume is already seeming like a dread to him. He supposes he won't get what he needs till next week after all. Damn it. He really wanted to have the opportunity to train as much as he could. It's bad enough he's so behind everyone else because 1, his quirk isn't physical, and 2, he's not even in the hero class yet. He doesn't even know if he's transferable, if all the effort he's putting into a single hope is even worth it. Hitoshi wonders how disappointed Aizawa would be if he ends up having personally trained him for nothing, and to think that one of Hitoshi's goals was to show everyone how much he'd improved, especially since the sports festival. He bets that he'd definitely be able to get further than he'd gotten with the skills that he'd acquired since then. Maybe it's Hitoshi himself that's the ghost, haunting this bathroom with a woeful expression. All that's missing is some mournful wailing, but he thinks that may be a bit too dramatic. Near the edge of the other sink sits a lantern, adding to the limited lighting. It's different from the paper pumpkins hung around the bathroom and from the ceiling. It's just a simple, handheld lamp. Carefully, Hitoshi picks it up, examining it. Why would there be just one of these? It makes sense to decorate more, but then again, this is a pretty small bathroom. Ugh. Hitoshi's so distressed about not being able to get his support item or leave the bathroom that he's fretting about the interior design of a high school Halloween party's restroom. Pathetic. The muffled music from outside the small space of the bathroom becomes clearer as the squeak of the door opening is heard, followed along with a resounding bang as it closes shut. Oh, there it is. Slowly, Hitoshi turns his head at the voice. There stands a ghost, except Hitoshi's pretty sure it's not a mere hallucination and definitely not an actual apparition. No, it's too loud and lively to be either of those. I was looking for that, says the ghost, or Midori Izuku, if Hitoshi's getting technical. He's draped in sheeps with patterned patches and a hood. I must have forgotten it when I was in here last. Midori seems to preen when Hitoshi holds out the lantern for him to take with a murmured, "Here." "Thank you, Shinzo-kun." The shorter boy has a smile brighter than all the glowing faux pumpkins combined, and it's definitely more blinding than any fluorescent lighting. Hitoshi's a little surprised that Midori even remembers him at all. Sure, he'd been body-slammed by the other, but Hitoshi had honestly doubted that would be a memorable moment for the younger boy. What with how hectic a heroic schedule is rumored to be. Partly, Hitoshi's a bit elated, only a bit though. He'd been working hard to show everyone how much he's improved, Midori included. "So, how's the night treating you?" The freckled boy tilts his head in question. Hitoshi cringes at the waver in his own voice. It could be better. Better as in alone in his dorm, guzzling caffeine and figuring out the technicalities of the support item that he was supposed to get. Midori chuckled at that. "Boy, I hear that. I had to dance with 8 different people. Half of them weren't even by choice. Midnight Sensei just shoved us together," he whines. "Guess you gotta be faster then," Hitoshi mumbles with the intent of delivering a bit of humor. "I was nearly caught too," he says, leaning the small of his back against the sink while shoving his hands into his pockets. "Lucky, I'm not even sure if I want to go back out there and risk it again." Hitoshi cracks a half-smile. "I wouldn't," he says. Really, he would not. Not only is he desperate to not be paired, he's also not too keen on socializing. "Say, your costume's pretty cool, Shinzo-kun." Midori marvels at Hitoshi with a reflection of the lanterns floating in his eyes. "Huh?" "I haven't seen an Eraserhead costume before. Well, besides the actual Eraserhead, but yours is neat too. The scarf is practically identical." Oh. Hitoshi didn't plan on that. The baggy, dark workout clothes were simply because it's nearly winter, and the scarf is for his sparring that he'd just gotten back from. A very unintentional clothing combo. It's not... Hitoshi catches himself before he can correct the other. He had planned, does plan on showing his improvement to everyone, mostly the hero students, and now, for some reason, especially Midoriya. Hitoshi thinks it's because he's the one that prevented him from advancing to the next round at the sports festival, and he just wants to prove to the other boy that he's stronger now, but telling him that now will do nothing if he hasn't fully trained yet, at least not with his new gear. Thanks. Hitoshi's hand reaches to the back of his neck as he looks away. He'll just have to let the other assume Hitoshi is actually participating in this silly holiday. So, the other fidgets a bit, scarred hand messing with the striped bow tie attached to his costume. About the sports festival. Uh-oh. Seems like Midori isn't too happy about being insulted, brainwashed, and punched in the face all those months ago. Well, Hitoshi did wonder how long the other was going to stay civil around him. "I wanted to talk to you after that, but you always seem so busy, and I know that this is supposed to be a dance, and everyone's supposed to be enjoying themselves, and this is, probably the last thing you want to hear, but..." Midori's words trail into a mumble as his eyes find the floor. Hitoshi can guess the next part. Even if the other is taking his time to say it, he probably wants Hitoshi to apologize for brainwashing him and his classmates, for playing unfairly, for just being overall creepy. "Would it be okay if we hung out?" is shouted as the other looks up from his feet and at Hitoshi, eyebrows set in a scrunched up but determined look. Huh? He definitely was not expecting that. It's just... And the other's back to stuttering. "I always take notes on new quirks, limitations, combat strategies, sometimes costume ideas, but not often, and I've just never come across one like yours." Midori has a sparkle in his eyes as he smiles sheepishly. Hitoshi stands there with a blank stare. He's never had someone interested in his quirk. The only people who found it fascinating were people that he bet would probably use it for less acceptable purposes, or people who wanted to have him use it for their bidding. Hitoshi doubts Midori wants favors from him. The kid already has everything. Perfect quirk, top of his class, friends, a cute smile. "It's okay if you're uncomfortable with it." Midori is quick to reassure. He must have interpreted Hitoshi's silence for something other than plain old confusion. Sure. Hitoshi manages to get out. He at least owes the other that, and besides, it's just a bit of note-taking. The shorter boy's lips stretch upward as he lets out a squeal. Then, fishing around through the patchwork of his costume, he pulls out a phone to hold out to Hitoshi. "Let's exchange numbers." So that's how Hitoshi finds himself not only trapped in a secluded restroom at a Halloween party with the person at the top of the hero class, but also exchanging contact info with said person, as if Hitoshi hadn't punched him in the face, and as if the other hadn't slammed Hitoshi's body into the ground all those months ago. Hitoshi's never gotten someone's number before. Sure, he'd gotten Aizawa's only because the pro had insisted in case of emergencies. He would have gotten Hatsume's if he wasn't stupid, but right now, as Hitoshi hands the other back his phone after putting in his name and number, he gets a teensy feeling of giddiness that he's actually making a friend. The muffled sound of music slows, the lyrics barely reaching through the thick walls of the restroom door, but the low bass can be heard. It's kinda calming, really. And Hitoshi's grateful he's in here during another slow song. Sure, being forced to dance with someone he doesn't know, and at the encouragement of a teacher no less, makes him cringe at the very thought. But if Midnight wasn't out there trying to play matchmaker during the slow dances, Hitoshi's sure he'd be left all by his lonesome, still by the punch bowl, looking like a complete loser that came here by himself, which is essentially exactly what he is. Midori shuffles in his spot again, the handle of his lantern being passed between each hand in a state of nervousness. Why would he have anything to be nervous about? Would you maybe like to dance? With me, I mean. The freckled boy keeps his gaze away from Hitoshi, biting his bottom lip, and wow, that action really doesn't have any business being that adorable. Hitoshi stays stunned where he is. He's pretty sure his mouth opens and closes a few times, further making him look like an idiot. Midori wants to dance with him. Him? Really? It's like the universe is playing a joke, and Hitoshi's trying hard not to fall for it. Once again, the other mistakes Hitoshi's silence for something else. Only since I figured it's better than being forced to dance with a stranger at the hand of Midnight-sensei, Midori quickly adds, hand mimicking Hitoshi's habit of gripping the back of his neck. It was a silly suggestion. You wouldn't be in here hiding if you wanted to dance. Just forget I asked. Ask again. 1, 2, 3 beats of silence, save for the muffled music. Huh? Midori's got a look of confusion, written over his freckles, and honestly, Hitoshi's own brain has a giant question mark, making beeping sounds in his head because why did I say that? Maybe it's because that after everything tonight, showing up to a party he didn't want to attend, searching for someone for whom he didn't even know how to find, and then secluding himself in a bathroom, the amount of shits he's able to give is 0. And if he's being honest with himself, he selfishly does want to dance with Midori because 1, it's his own choice to do so or not. 2, it's in the privacy of a softly lit bathroom and there's no risk of him bumping into any other fumbling pairs. And 3, Hitoshi's never really slow danced with anyone before, and he kinda does want to change that little fact, regardless of its insignificance. Go on. Hitoshi smiles slyly at the other. Ask again. Midori only falters for a moment before his lips turn upright, adding to the shine in the space they occupy. May I have this dance? He holds out a hand, the handle of the lamp looped on his arm. No need to be so formal. Hitoshi chuckles but takes the hand held out to him anyway. You know how to dance, right? Hitoshi only questions as the other places his hands on his hips. This is how I did it with everyone else. Did everyone else happen to be all girls? Because the shorter person has to put their hands here. Hitoshi comments while relocating Midori's scarred hands from Hitoshi's hips to his shoulders. The smaller boy lets out an "oh," while Hitoshi sets his own hands on the other's waist. Even with the layers of patchwork, toned muscle can be felt underneath. Now what? Midori asks expectantly, looking up at Hitoshi. Aren't you the one who danced with 8 people? Not like this. Hitoshi has to wonder what like this means from the other. Well, from what I've seen in movies, we just... Hitoshi keeps his feet where they are, too fearful that he might step on the other's shoes if he moves them, and starts to lean the two of them left and right. Sway like this. This is nice. Very nice, and the best thing is Hitoshi doesn't fear any watchful eyes on him, people judging him for dancing with someone or just assuming the only way someone would do this with him is if he brainwashed them. No, it's just him and Midoriya, swaying back and forth to the muffled sound of music being filtered into the restroom. The area isn't that big, but eventually they actually start moving their feet, with the same left and right motion they sway in. It's clumsy at best, and Midori ends up kicking Hitoshi's foot, but really, how can Hitoshi be mad when the other lets out a breathy giggle of an apology? Actually, scratch what he had thought seconds ago. The best thing isn't being away from judgmental gazes, no. The best part is being able to get to dance with Midoriya right here, right now. And Hitoshi is slowly starting to understand what like this means. Suddenly, waiting a little longer for a support item doesn't seem that bad anymore. All right, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's a short and sweet little one-shot. It is a great shindeku. It's one I like a lot. Let me know your thoughts and reactions, and as always, thank you so much for listening.